Hello and welcome back to the Watchworks. I have an interesting one for all you today. This kind of falls under my random video category. Doesn't have really anything to do with pocket watches or clocks. In fact, nothing really at all, besides the tinkering aspect, I guess you could say. This is a Marx battery-powered locomotive that I've done some modifications to. I'll pick it up here and show y'all. It's in pretty rough condition. You can see all the cracks through the case. I got this very cheap at an antique store. There's where the batteries go in. That is the coupler that I made out of copper wire. And the battery tray has definitely suffered some rust damage from a probably leaking battery a long time ago. The underside. I'll get into that in a bit. And I'll uncover this here. That's right, this once battery-powered locomotive now can run off DC track power. It's my 3-rail 027 gauge Y&L track, actually. I also got at the same antique store. There's going to be kind of a long, ranty video too, so y'all can skip through to certain parts. Or just click off if it gets boring. This part here is copper. This part here is copper, and this is silicon, I'm not sure, steel I think. It's part of a transformer. There's a lot of laminations, and this is all screwed together to create this center pickup. Now one of the battery connections was already actually just terminated onto the chassis of this, that being this rear spring. And I will say all these modifications are reversible that I've done to this. Like, I can remove that at any point by desoldering a wire, cutting a zip tie, and undoing some screws. So if you look at the end there, it's going to be kind of hard. There's a contact at the end where the positive end of the battery would have went onto that switch. And I have extended a wire from there to there. And you can see there's a weight in there too. That was like that from the factory. Kind of a shame they didn't place that somewhere else, or else I could add a headlamp in there. I don't want to remove that weight. And this case also probably could have been used for, I guess, a motor of a smoking unit. I'm still kind of learning all this stuff. Second off, well, I went through this and cleaned it up. Still kind of rusty. Can't pull these wheels off. I don't have a wheel puller. Another modification I've done, well, this isn't really a modification. I greased and oiled all this, and I make sure to keep it greased and oiled whenever I run this. Another modification, I've added carbon brushes to this motor instead of the just plain copper brushes on copper commutator. This motor was complaining a lot. Even when I added correct motor grease to this, it just kept squealing and whining, and that's not the bearings, it was the brushes grinding against the commutator from arcing. So with the carbon brushes, this thing runs much better, and I don't have to worry about damage to the commutator, or commutator bars, excuse me. So I'm pretty pleased with how those turned out. You can see how this works, and I made sure to have the pickup, I think that's what it's called. Any experts on this, if you know the actual term for this, definitely let me know in the comments. Here's the electric pickup. So I will put this on the rails here, and I will explain the controller. Here is the control box. I opened it up here. You can see this is part of what once used to be a remote control from a $10 Walmart New Bright RC car. You can see I've done some pretty extensive modification. Trimmed down the remote case literally just down to the battery holder. Free advertisement right there. And I've left the buttons on here because they're a pain to desolder. The pads the traces lift up on these New Bright controller boards really easily. So I was able to solder to the test pads. there's all the switches, all the wiring, and I'll go through what each of those switches does. Let me pop that back into the case. It is just a hobby box, I guess. This is what the standard project box is. And here is the driver board, which I have wrapped in duct tape because that is definitely compliant. I mean, it's on a, what, not even 4 volts. Or, yeah, actually 4 volts. 4.6 to be exact, because each of these is 1.2 volts. Nickel metal hydride any loops. These things are great when it comes to like running motors and high current draw stuff. And I have the wire just kind of jammed into, they're over there, but I have them jammed into the places where the tracks connect. So that being said, I know this is kind of a long, rambly, boring video, but maybe some people out there find this interesting. I don't know. Couple that up. There's a tin, what they call this, a tin plate with a graft tender, that's what we call it. So here's the train. I will put that to the forward, and I just keep that like that. And this is the power switch for the controller, and obviously for the driver board that's already on. This here, I guess, is would be the enter key. So this is your direction selection, so that's forward, and this is your speed selector. So this would be, I guess, crawl or creep. That would be full speed, which automatically switches that. So forward, and that's slow, and you can hear the pulse width modulation kind of get stuck. This can kind of help nudge it. And my tripod just broke, so I'll hold my camera. So that's nudge, and then that's full speed. And I think the batteries are kind of running low on this right now. There it goes, so I'll shut that down, shut that off, and I'll put it into reverse. So now it's going to reverse. So that's about it for the operation of this thing. It's been pretty fun kind of tinkering around with this, bringing it back to life, considering it was just a cheap, rusty hunk of junk when I got it. This was actually sitting next to it, ironically, and I only picked this up a few days ago. I think it may have went with it based on how rusty this was too. I cleaned it up some, cleaned the axles, greased it, and it runs rather nicely. So that being said, I mean, that's about it. I can take the camera off here and maybe show the pickup going against the track there. So there it is. That's how I put it on the track. And here's it going one last time, I guess, before I end the video. Without the tender. Whoops. With that being said, thanks for watching. I hope some of y'all found that interesting.